Happy Easter. This time I'm on top of it. This time we're posting on the holiday. Maybe a day early, depending on where you live, but it's still on the holiday. Obviously, because it's Easter, I decided I wanted to draw my Easter character, Eostra. Why I called her that? Because it's like Easter, but with the wiggly line. Like I verbally had a wiggly line in my tone. Anyway, so Eostra is the character I designed around Easter. She is the Easter rabbit of sorts, except every time I draw her, she is doing everything but her job. I don't draw her very often, obviously, because Easter comes around once a year, and I don't even draw her that many times. But I think it's because when I drew her original design, it was very overcomplicated, because it was only supposed to be like, hey, this is the Easter character. So I decided in this one, when I was sketching out, I was like, I think I might change some things up about her. Like, I tried to keep it mostly her, but I decided to give her a bit more like full body rather than like a really skinny character, because I don't know, I prefer to draw characters with a little bit more chubby on them. I changed her hairstyle because I looked at the other one and I was like, I don't really like it. Well, I like it, but I didn't want to draw her with that style. I just didn't feel like it was her. So I changed her hairstyle, and when I get to the colors, I also changed the color of her hair slightly, and a couple of other colors and stuff. Her skin color and all her patterns on her mostly stay the same. But I also took off like her really bright eyeshadow because I put it on her like on the sketch, no, not the sketch, the on her reference, and I've drawn her with it like once, but like all the other times I just didn't draw her with it because I preferred her without it. When I was sketching it, I was like, well, I really went for the full effect of, I want to change her body shape, and then I want to do perspective. I want to try perspective, and then I also want to have like her up front being under like in like a hammock in the central view, and then like behind her being like the forest floor where all the rabbits are looking for, like where all the rabbits are looking for her, being like, please, where are you? It's Easter, you have to work, and she's up in a hammock not doing that. I don't know if I got the message across. I feel like I did, but it's really hard to tell when you work for hours on it and then you look at it and you're like, that's what I see. Well, of course that's what I see. I drew it. Turns out it's really hard to find like a reference for Game Boy, or specifically the one I was looking for. So I was kind of just going off like a bunch of different Game Boys that I found on the internet and went, yeah, I'll just stick them all together and what vagueness I have from my memory of my Game Boy. And like, because my cousin had this type of Game Boy, I had like a Game Boy Color Light, so they look nothing like those Game Boys. I'll stick all of my memory pieces together and I'll hopefully it comes across that she's playing on a Game Boy or something. I did have a reflection of light coming off the Game Boy, and Game Boys don't have, from what I remember, Game Boys didn't have light coming off the screen that like reflected really hard to make like, I don't know, maybe it's a different game that I'm thinking of, but I'm pretty sure Game Boys were the ones where you had to like buy a separate thing so you could play it at nighttime. I have an old piece with Eostra in a little kiddie pool hanging out with a beer. And I took that for the color reference for the little rabbits on the floor, for some of them, but I ended up changing a lot of the patterns and colors because the old piece was just like, they blended really in together, so I changed a lot of their saturation, but I still kept some of the rabbits being the same. I gave one rabbit a hat because I thought it would be cute. I'm honestly really proud of how I colored and shaded the rocks and the trees in the background. I don't know what was going on, but I was like, wow, I like this. I feel like I could have put a little more shading on Eostra so it would just pop a little more, but I'd already put so much shading on it that I started seeing just no changes. Because when you work on something for a really long time, like for hours on end straight, because normally I'll break it up these days, but this time I really got into it and I was like, I'll just keep drawing and drawing. But everything starts to be like, I can't tell if this is better or worse, because normally you have to like step away and come back, but I didn't want to step away and come back because I wanted to make it by Easter. And I had the time, so I was just like, well, what else am I going to do? I realized now that I'd forgotten to put all of her flowers and stuff on her head, which I want to do, but I feel like maybe it's because she's relaxing and chilling and she's not doing her Easter stuff, that she can just like not have the flowers and stuff blooming on her head right now. But they are an integral part of her design, so I'm a little upset that I didn't end up putting those in. It must have entirely skipped my mind when I was coloring her and all that. I tried changing the inner part of her ears because I put just plain thin love hearts and then kind of like a Powerpuff Girl kind of deal. I still don't like the inner parts of it yet. I feel like I should change it a little bit. I could do something a little different. I don't know. I didn't put all the excessive like colors on like her elbows and her shoulders and on her cheeks because I felt like up in the trees and stuff she really didn't need it. It just kind of seemed a lot extra. Like I feel like the extra stuff could definitely work if I was to draw her doing her job and stuff, but I feel like hanging out, hiding away from her job, she doesn't need it. I changed her rabbit tail to just be like a big fluffy tail rather than like with little... It looks different, but I like the different. I think a lot of issues I'm having these days is that I'll get really into the sketch, but then, and I'll finish an entire sketch. I have so many sketches just done, ready to just, once I sit down and do it. And I'll sit down and I'll do 100 sketches and they'll be like ready for me to immediately go into the line art and then the coloring and all that stuff. But I'll hit like a wall, a break. I'll hit a wall and I just have all of these sketches and I don't want to click on the line art because that's the part where if you screw up, it'll like suck, it won't look good, and you know, you get all those things in your head and you're like, oh, what if the line art doesn't look good and then my sketch has just gone to waste when the sketch looks perfectly fine. And I've been really having issues with that one lately, there's so many sketches and everything that I want to get done and I want to finish, but I don't have the like push to say, hey, yeah, if you do it, then like, even if I used to be really okay with if it's bad, it's okay. But like now I've got all the time in the world and I'm like, oh, I'll just leave it and I'll come back to it. And I'm hoping to break out of that because this piece really, I did the sketch and I did a different sketch and I came back to this because it's Easter and I went, I'm gonna line it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna have it done by Easter. And I just started and it was like, yeah, this is great, this is fantastic. Nothing felt too off, nothing was like bad about it. I love all of it and I like the finished piece as well. So hopefully this is like the start of me trying to break the habit of drawing a sketch and then never finishing it because I like the sketch and I don't want to ruin it. But away from that, I tried to make like this shading on her to be like, and the lighting to be like that she's in the treetops. Like I used a lot of textured brushes with like twigs and kind of feathery effects and all that stuff to make it look like she's in the treetops. I don't know if it worked, but I do like the textures because I don't use a lot of textures on my art. I normally do like flat colors and then the Gaussian blur for any sort of shading and stuff. But looking at the old piece that I did of her in like the same sort of scenario where she's not doing her work and looking at that one to this one while I was working, I feel like it really helped me because I could already see that I was doing a lot better, that like my colors were like a lot more succinct. There wasn't just like random stuff everywhere. The background was thought out. The rabbits weren't just hastily made and put there. I think it really helped me a lot. I do like the old one. I ended up drawing her drinking a can of VB or something. So anyway, hope you all are having a good Easter, or if you don't celebrate Easter, just a good weekend, holiday, I don't know. Just a good time. And I'll see you next month.